Hi, I'm Ethan Levine, and I'm the Research and Evaluation Manager at CAST. I'm here today with Jenna Bruce, who was part of the team for our recent project on forced criminality. Forced criminality, also known as criminal exploitation, occurs when traffickers force survivors to engage in illegal activities. This includes, but is not limited to, circumstances in which survivors are forced to use or transport illegal drugs, to commit theft or identity theft, to commit assault or battery, or to engage in criminalized forms of sex work. These survivors are often misidentified as offenders rather than victims and may face arrest or incarceration for crimes that they were forced to commit. Our project team took a close look at CAST's practices for collecting information on clients' experiences of forced criminality. Our original plan had been to develop a brief checkbox-style screening tool to accompany our intakes. Based on team members' feedback, we wound up shifting towards a more conversational approach, creating space for survivors to share their experiences in their own words and on their own terms. In addition to being more client-centered, this approach has improved data collection. And we also developed an interactive dashboard based on anonymous data from service provision, as well as a guide for anti-trafficking practitioners on documenting and addressing forced criminality. Both are available on CAST website and the description for this interview. I'll be interviewing several members of the team to learn more about their perspectives on this issue, as well as their main takeaways from the project. All interviews will be pre-recorded. I've asked each team member whether they'd like to introduce themselves or would prefer that I read a short bio, and Jenna, who's here with me today, has asked me to read a bio. So Jenna Bruce is the current sitting president of Rotarians Fighting Human Trafficking, a legal fellow with the Coalition to Abolish Slavery and Trafficking, and a survivor of human trafficking. They are 23 years old and currently pursuing a degree in psychology with aspirations of becoming a lawyer one day. Their work focuses on intersectionality and marginalization, speaking and educating on the LGBTQIA+ and BIPOC communities. Their humanitarian work has amassed millions of views on TikTok and hundreds of thousands of likes. Jenna's goal in life is simple. Currently, less than 1% of people survive human trafficking. They want to see that statistic get to 2%, then 3%, and so on. They envision and fight for a world where human trafficking isn't a prevalent issue. So welcome, Jenna.
Thank you very much.
Yes. Yeah. So to begin, I would just love to hear a bit about what led you to this project and how the issue of forced criminality became part of your work.
Yeah, so there's kind of multiple angles that I came into this project. As mentioned, am a survivor of human trafficking. And part of my story involves a fear of criminalization,
Mhm.
because I was involved in sex trafficking as a minor. Um, I was not aware that it is impossible for a minor to be a prostitute, but
Mhm.
I felt that if I came forward, I was going to be charged with prostitution or some other related crime. Um, and then through my work at CAST, I interview people all the time who forced criminality is a part of their story. And it has a huge impact on their lives.
Right.
It prevents them from getting housing. It prevents them from getting certain social services. And currently, the way the law is, if a record is expunged, it's not sealed. So people
Mm.
can still, potential landlords can still see these charges on someone's record and it impacts their lives.
Right. I appreciate you bringing that up. I feel like I had no understanding of that limitation of expunging records when I came here to
Mhm.
also work at CAST. Yeah. So, uh, you know, something I wanted to just to follow up on that, has your understanding of forced criminality or its consequences changed at all through your work?
Absolutely. I was under the impression that if somebody had their record expunged, it got rid of it
Right.
and it wouldn't continue to affect them.
Yeah, absolutely. So that is a nice segue into our next question. So why is it important for anti-trafficking organizations to address forced criminality?
Yeah, kind of going off what I just said.
Yep.
Um,
Yes.
it, it allows access to social services, to jobs, to housing. It's by focusing on forced criminality, we can help people get those records expunged
Right.
from a legal standpoint. Um, and I think the more we focus on it, the more we move closer to a place where a criminal record doesn't affect somebody as much.
Mhm.
Um, I think the more we focus on it, the more we can potentially push legislation and policy related to this.
Yeah, something that you're making me think about. I appreciate you're taking such a broad approach in terms of criminal records affecting people, right? Because it sounds
Hmm.
like the way you're talking about this, absolutely, this is something that affects survivors of trafficking, but everyone who's criminalized, right?
Hmm.
Yeah. This is an on-the-spot question, so please feel free to say, I'm not sure or I need more time. But um, since you brought up the policy side, are there examples of policy changes that feel exciting to you, policy changes that you don't want to see happen that you feel comfortable sharing?
So currently there is a Senate bill. I do not know specifically which one,
Sure.
but it is in the works of exactly what we're talking about here.
Hmm.
Um, Instead of expunging records for human trafficking, they want to seal them.
Mm.
So this policy makes me very hopeful for that.
Yeah. All right. Awesome. Yeah, and also right that connection to housing and employment. I love that. And it is also just validating to know that I wasn't the only one with such a misunderstanding of how expunging records worked, right?
Mhm.
I really thought, right, you do that and then you're done.
Yeah.
Yeah. Right. So bringing it back to this project, so as you know, as a team member, so in our project meetings and then also in the materials we produced, like our guideline for anti-trafficking practitioners, we spoke a lot about reflection and healing. And I will share with you, this was not something on my mind when I started, right? This was something that came very much from other team members. So could you say a bit about what reflection and healing means to you and why it's relevant to addressing forced criminality?
Yeah, I'll start off by saying that when I first heard the team talking about reflection and healing, I was a little taken aback.
Hmm.
And I was like, okay, as service providers to survivors, how are we really doing reflection and healing? Like,
Mm.
I thought like we're not therapists,
Right.
but through this work, I learned more that reflection and healing has everything to do with the way you approach a conversation.
Mm.
And doing an interview for social services can involve reflection and healing.
Right.
It has to do a lot with the language we use. Um, I know when I ask survivors about forced criminality in my work, I always frame it as what were you forced to do?
Hmm.
Um, and just that language can start to provide a place where, a lot of survivors have self-blame and guilt for the trafficking situations.
Hmm.
And putting it in a way where it takes the blame off them and allows them to actually look back at the situation. I think that's reflection and healing.
Right.
Um,
Absolutely. Hmm.
I think it's looking at, a story you know so well through a different lens.
No, I love that. Right. And the idea that that's a part of service provision too, right? Even doing a legal
Yeah.
intake. Yeah. All right. Amazing. So continuing on, who are you hoping that we can reach through this project, whether kind of short term or long term, and what message would you have for them?
Um, I'm hoping to reach both survivors and service providers.
Mhm.
Um, I'm hoping in reaching survivors, there's less of a feeling of like being alone in your experience.
Yeah.
The dashboard that we built for this project, really kind of helps you to put yourself in and an understanding of who is criminalized and how many people are criminalized and in what ways are they criminalized. Um, I really, I think it will hopefully lead to more survivors coming forward.
Mm,
And I
yeah.
guess my message for them is that what happened to you is not your fault, and you have a right not to be criminalized for crimes you were forced to commit. Um, and then through reaching service providers, I'm kind of hoping, we created a conversational outline for how to approach forced criminality questions
Mhm.
during our intakes and assessments. I'm really hoping they take that language into consideration and kind of create the space of reflection and healing. And my message to the service providers would be, regardless of your position, if you are interacting with survivors, you have an opportunity to incorporate reflection and healing into your
Mhm.
work.
That's been one of my biggest takeaways too, Jenna. Thank you for all of that. I also, in my own career, I used to have a much more direct service focus, and now I'm the research and evaluation person. So I support all of you who interact directly with clients.
Mhm.
But I it's really pushed me to even think about, right, building research, collaborating with the
Mhm.
team that needs to be a part of my work too, right? So no,
Absolutely.
yeah, I love that. All right. So is there anything else that you'd like to share about this project or anything that came up for you while working on it?
Um, I I don't really think so.
Sure. That's good. Listen, I do my best to write questions that will hit on everything someone wants to share, but it's always possible that I miss something. So that's just going to be in there, right? In every interview I do. All right,
No problem.
amazing. Yes, thank you. And now I'm extra excited to ask this question to you, given your bio. So if somebody would like to learn more about you or your work, whether at CAST or outside of CAST, where can they go?
So you can find me on TikTok at Pass the Marinara. You can find me on Instagram at Let Them Speak. And you can also reach me by email at letthemspeak4@gmail.com. These are kind of all of the platforms I use to talk about trafficking.
Mhm. Yeah. That is so impressive to me. I think I've said this to you before, right? That just, your full-time job is anti-trafficking and also all of that work. That's so amazing. Um, there is going to be a transcript, for this interview shared, so I'll include links to those pages in there as well.
Thank you.
Uh, so thank you so much for spending this time with me today, Jenna, and all of your work on the project. And thanks to those of you who joined us for this important conversation. If you'd like to learn more about this project or about CAST, please go to our website, www.castla.org. That's www.castla.org. You can also find a link to our dashboard on forced criminality and our practitioner guidelines on documenting forced criminality in the description for this interview. Thank you.
Thank you.